Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're sailing across a pitch-black ocean. No GPS, no radar. Just you, your wooden ship, and miles of invisible rocks waiting beneath the waves. Then, through the darkness, you see it, a single point of light flickering in the distance. That light means safety. It means home. It means you might actually survive the night. Tonight, we're going to trace the incredible story of lighthouses, from ancient wonders to lonely Victorian towers, and discover how these silent guardians have been saving lives for over 2,000 years. So settle in, get cozy, and let's begin this gentle journey through time. Our story starts in the ancient world, around 280 BCE, on a small island called Pharos near Alexandria, Egypt. Ptolemy I, one of Alexander the Great's generals who'd claimed Egypt as his kingdom, commissioned something extraordinary, a massive lighthouse that would guide ships into one of the busiest ports in the ancient world. It took roughly 20 years to complete, finally being finished during the reign of his son, Ptolemy II, around 280 BC. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, also called the Pharos, stood over 330 feet tall. Only the pyramids were taller. Can you picture it? A gleaming white marble tower, rising from the Mediterranean, visible for miles and miles. The tower had 3 sections, each one narrower than the one below. At the very top, a fire burned continuously, and during the day, mirrors made of polished bronze reflected sunlight out to sea. For over 1,600 years, this magnificent structure guided ships safely to harbor. But nothing lasts forever. A series of devastating earthquakes between 956 and 1303 AD gradually reduced this wonder of the ancient world to rubble. By 1480, the last remnants were used to build a medieval fort that still stands today. The Romans, always practical builders, constructed lighthouses throughout their empire. They understood the value of safe navigation for their trading vessels and military fleets. The Tower of Hercules in Spain, built in the 1st century AD during the reign of Emperor Trajan, is their lasting gift to us. Remarkably, this lighthouse is still standing, still functioning, nearly 2,000 years later. It's the oldest working lighthouse in the world, a true testament to Roman engineering. But when Rome fell, lighthouse building largely fell with it. The medieval period saw few new lighthouses constructed. Maritime trade slowed, knowledge was lost, and the coasts grew darker. It wouldn't be until the late medieval period, when trade began flourishing again, that people realized we really need to help ships not crash into things. Let's jump to 1696, to a nightmare of a location off the coast of Plymouth, England. The Eddystone rocks were basically a ship graveyard, a collection of treacherous reefs that were completely underwater at high tide, waiting to tear the bottom out of any vessel unlucky enough to hit them. Enter Henry Winstanley, an eccentric engineer and inventor. After losing 2 of his own ships to these rocks, he decided enough was enough. In 1696, he began the seemingly impossible task of building a lighthouse on this deadly reef. The work was brutal. Waves would strand his workers for weeks, and during construction, he was even captured by a French privateer. But King Louis XIV of France reportedly ordered his release, saying, "France is at war with England, not with humanity." By November 1698, when Stanley's lighthouse was complete, a bizarre, ornate wooden tower adorned with decorations and galleries. It was quite a sight. During its first operational winter, when Stanley himself got trapped there for 5 weeks and nearly starved, he realized the tower needed to be stronger, so he completely rebuilt it, making it taller and more reinforced. He was so confident in his new design that he famously declared he wished to be inside it during the greatest storm that ever was. On November 27th, 1703, he got his wish. The Great Storm, one of the most violent tempests in British history, struck while Winstanley was at the lighthouse making repairs. When dawn broke, there was nothing left. The entire structure had vanished, along with Winstanley and everyone else who'd been with him. But here's the remarkable thing. During the 5 years it stood, not a single ship was wrecked on those rocks. people didn't give up. John Rudyard built another Eddystone lighthouse in 1709, this time using wood reinforced with stone. It lasted nearly 50 years before catching fire in 1755. The third attempt, though, that's when they got it right. John Smeaton, an engineer with a brilliant idea, designed a lighthouse modeled on the shape of an oak tree, wide at the base, tapering upward. Beginning in 1756, he built it entirely from interlocking stone blocks, each one carefully shaped to fit together like a three-dimensional puzzle. Completed in 1759, Smeaton's lighthouse stood for over 120 years and became the template for lighthouse design around the world. While England was perfecting lighthouse construction, colonial America was getting into the game. In 1716, Boston Light was completed on Little Brewster Island, becoming the first lighthouse in what would become the United States. Its first keeper, George Worthy Lake, lived there with his family. Tragically, just 2 years later, he, his wife, his daughter, and 3 others drowned when their boat capsized returning from the mainland. A young Benjamin Franklin, just 12 years old, wrote a poem about the tragedy called The Lighthouse Tragedy. Boston Light had its own dramatic history. During the Revolutionary War, American forces burned it in 1775 to deny its use to the British. When the British finally evacuated Boston in 1776, they left behind timed explosives that destroyed what remained. But in 1783, the newly independent United States rebuilt it, and that structure still stands today. It's now the only lighthouse in America that's still actively staffed, a connection to our maritime heritage. The 19th century brought a revolution in lighthouse technology. In 1822, a French physicist named Augustin Fresnel invented something that changed everything: the Fresnel lens. This wasn't just any lens. It was a masterpiece of glass and engineering. Imagine a beehive made of cut crystal with hundreds of prisms arranged in concentric rings, all designed to capture every bit of light from a lamp and focus it into a powerful beam visible for over 20 miles. These lenses were enormous. Some weighed several tons, and they were works of art. They would rotate slowly on pools of mercury, their beams sweeping across the dark water in distinctive patterns. Different lighthouses had different patterns. Some flashed once every few seconds. Others swept continuously. Some alternated between white and red. This way, sailors could identify which lighthouse they were seeing and know exactly where they were, even in the thickest fog. Let's talk about the lighthouse keepers for a moment. These were the unsung heroes of maritime safety. Being a keeper meant living in isolation, often for months at a time, in some of the most remote and dangerous locations imaginable. Your entire existence revolved around keeping that light burning, no matter what. Keepers would climb those towers multiple times a day, trimming wicks, refueling lamps, cleaning the precious lenses, winding the clockwork mechanisms that made them rotate. In storms, some would stay awake for days, watching, maintaining, making sure nothing failed. Because if that light went out, people could die. There are countless stories of heroism. Keepers who rescued shipwreck survivors from freezing waters. Keepers who maintained their lights through hurricanes, even as waves crashed over the tower. Families who lived these isolated lives together. Children growing up in these remote outposts where the only neighbors were seabirds and crashing waves. As we moved into the 20th century, technology kept advancing. Electricity replaced oil lamps. Automated systems meant fewer keepers were needed. By the late 1900s, GPS and radar made lighthouses less critical for navigation. One by one, the lights went automatic. The keepers, and a unique way of life they represented, slowly disappeared. Today, most lighthouses are either automated, converted into museums or vacation homes, or simply abandoned. Many stand as picturesque ruins, slowly surrendering to the elements they once defied. But something interesting happened. Even though we don't need them anymore, we still love them. There's something deeply moving about lighthouses. Maybe it's their solitude, standing alone against the darkness. Maybe it's what they represent: hope, guidance, safety in the storm. They're symbols of human determination, of our desire to make the world a little safer for each other. Think about all the lives saved over the centuries. All the sailors who made it home because someone kept a fire burning in a tower. All the keepers who dedicated their lives to a light that most people would never think about. It's a profound legacy. The next time you see a lighthouse, whether it's in person or just in a photograph, take a moment to really consider it. Remember that it's not just a pretty tower. It's a monument to centuries of courage, ingenuity, and the simple but powerful idea that we should help guide each other through the darkness. Sweet dreams, everyone. May you always find your way safely home.